Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Vicki Ronchette from Show Dog Prep School. And in about 2 minutes, I'm going to start with my presentation of Rook's Journey Part 2. I'm just getting on a little early so I could share this and get other people to share it. So I'll wait a couple minutes for people to jump on. It's supposed to start at 4. So what I'm going to be doing tonight is part 2 of Rook's Journey. So if you missed part 1, I did just share the YouTube link, I think yesterday, on the Show Dog Prep School page. So today we're going to be talking about like what happened after that, because in part 1, I kind of walked you through what I did and where we were. And now we're going to be talking about sort of where that left off. So when I ended that one, it was just when I had put him in the ring for the first 1 or 2 times, maybe. So we were just really getting started in the showing. So I had, just as a reminder, entered him as a baby dog when he was 6 months old. He leaned away from the judge in sweepstakes. No, he actually stepped back in sweepstakes, and I asked to be excused. And then in the regular class that morning, I showed him, and he just leaned away. He was better, but I still went ahead and pulled him for the afternoon, and pulled him actually for 9 months, and worked on the behavior. So in part 1, it goes all through everything that I worked on with him getting to that point. So today, and this will also be recorded too, so you are welcome to watch it back or share it. So I'm going to go ahead and share. Hold on. Why is that not letting me do that? There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started here. All right. Just want to make sure you guys can see this. I know it looks a little weird right now, but now you should be good. So I'm not sure whether or not I'll actually be able to see questions or comments. So we'll go ahead and wait to the end for that, and you will be able to ask questions. I'm just looking at my phone to make sure you can see it. Okay, perfect. All right. So this is Rook's Journey Part 2, taking my dog from shy to showy. Just a little recap. This was included in part 1, but I'll just remind you that I obtained Rook from a trusted breeder when he was 9 weeks old. This was smack in the middle of the pandemic. And I know a lot of people talk about COVID puppies or pandemic puppies. And I do think that can impact things. Obviously, if you can't do the amount of socialization and exposure that you're used to doing and you like doing, then it is going to impact things if you can't do that, right? But it's also important to keep in mind that there's a lot of dogs who went through that same thing and didn't have an issue. Okay, so part of it is always partly genetic. So me and my best friend drove to Southern California. I'm in Northern California, and we picked him up. We drove him home. I've met both his parents. The first time I saw some concern was with my friend Colleen. He's about 4 months old. She's kind of tall. She has white hair. He was startled, but I still went, I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm not real comfortable. I think that might be an issue. And then at 7 months old, I had a litter of Lauchen. I had a litter of Lauchen puppies. I had to remember if it was Dachshunds or Lauchen. Obviously, it was a litter of Lauchen puppies. And they came over. We had people come over and visit. And a friend brought a Frenchie puppy, and he was reactive to that puppy. Again, I entered him in a dog show when he was 8 months old for that baseline. And he backed up for the exam. I asked to be excused. He was better in his class. He won his class, but I pulled him for 9 months to work on this because I'm not going to just force a fearful animal to do this. Sometimes people say, well, they get better if you do that, but they don't get better. They usually give up. I would say a small percentage might actually habituate to it and then just like kind of accept it, but rarely do they learn to love it. And it frequently is very scary for them in the beginning stages if that's the methodology people are using. So another just a few things to consider. The moment I noticed an issue with him, I put a plan in place. So that moment that he barked at Colleen, I was like, okay, I need to get him out to the park and around some people and see what this looks like. And I did see that there was an issue with new people. Even if I suspect it's an age issue or normal developmental period or hormones in play, I'm still going to immediately begin to work on it and do behavior mod because the dog needs some support and help anyways. And if it's not age, hormones, these other things, like in my dog's case, it wasn't. I mean, he still has some of these issues. He's a lot better, and he knows how to sort of communicate better with me where he's at. But I'm still going to work with him and start giving him skills. This work is very straightforward, but it's not hard to mess up. So if you don't know what you're doing, you should get a qualified behavior consultant. And that doesn't just usually mean a trainer or a handling class teacher. I'm talking about somebody who's really knowledgeable and skilled in working with fearful, reactive dogs. And I didn't panic because I've done this before with other dogs of mine, with client dogs. So I know how to change a dog's feelings about things. And I want to just point out that I never ever consider just forcing him and making him do it. As a reminder, all I can see is my screen right now. So I won't see any comments or questions. I will look through them after, but I won't be able to answer while this is happening. All right. So we did that stuff that I showed you in the first video in Rook's Journey Part 1. I worked on that for 9 months, starting with just working at people at a distance, inside the car, clicking and treating when he saw people, feeding when he saw people, going out on walks, feeding him, taking him to dog shows without entering him, all those kinds of things. And then after all this, I was really comfortable in seeing what was going to happen. I put him in an international show, and that video, or maybe there's 2 videos, are in Rook's Journey Part 1, and you can see how really, really good he did. I mean, this judge was so thorough and invasive, actually, and he really handled it. In this lineup here, he did win a major this day. This is him in the front of the line. So after that international show, I decided to start doing some AKC shows with him, and he was doing really well. He was relaxed in the ring and reliable in the ring. We quickly picked up most of his points, including both his majors, and his confidence grew, and I grew in my confidence in him and being in the ring with him. And I was just really proud of him and how well he was doing. All right, so here's a first couple of wins. This is he won a best of winners at a specialty, and then winners again, both with breeder judges. So he was doing really good. He got a second major here. He won an owner handler group 1. I mean, he really was seeming like he was actually enjoying it and doing really well. And then Wolfstock happened. So let's talk about what happened there. I'm drinking tea because I'm still getting over this cold. That's why this presentation was delayed for a week or 2. So if you've never been to Wolfstock, it is a giant show that we have here in Northern California. And it's, if you haven't already, please also feel free to share this so other people can jump on. So it's a big show. Everything is tie-dye. There's music playing the whole time. A lot of people are wearing costumes. I wear costumes. I mean, it's a really big, fun show, and I love it a lot. So let's just sort of break down what happened at that show. 4-day show. Day 1, he went winner's dog. Oh, look, I put 2 eyes in winners. And he got another 4-point major. That was his 3rd major. Day 2, he won his class. Day 3, he went reserve. And it's important that I point out, well, I'll point this out after. Day 4, he spun around at the judge, and I asked to be excused. And I think he would have snapped at him had I not got him up quick enough. So we left Wolfstock needing a single point. So I do know what happened. There was a lot of things going on for him at that show. This is just him over there when I went over to the building that we were showing in one day just to work with him there. And he actually was pretty comfortable there as long as, he wasn't under too much stress. So what went wrong at Wolfstock? So there was trigger stacking big time. Trigger stacking means there's just not one thing stressing the dog. It's layered. There's this thing and that thing and that thing and that thing. So if you look at some of these points, these are the things, the different triggers that we're working on, and we're upsetting him and building on his heightened state of mind. So, one, we were staying in a friend's trailer on the grounds. So instead of going home back and forth, we were literally staying in this super rich and loud and active environment for 4 days. We were staying in a trailer that he had not stayed in before. I co-own a pointer puppy, and it ended up that she had to stay in there with me, which I wasn't planning for. I thought she would be staying with them. She was in there with me in the trailer, which created more stress for him. It was a lot of days of shows. It was 4 days, and we got there obviously the day before it started. He was very uncomfortable with the building that we were showing in. Now, he had shown in other parts of this fairgrounds, but at this fairgrounds, like most fairgrounds, they have different areas. And there's this place we call the barn, and it's in the very, very back. And I actually really like to show there because it can get really hot and there's a lot of airflow. And I thought, oh, this will be so good for him. It'll be outside. It wasn't. Every day he got more stressed. Even one of the photographers who does ringside shots took a picture of him, and like you can see his reaction when the camera went off. Like he was really not comfortable at all. And I was not comfortable because I could see that he was not comfortable. We had some of the hottest days that year. One day was over 100 degrees. It was really warm. And so that, was something for him. And then we went to work in the barn Saturday night. So every day he was just like kind of looking around, a little more hyper vigilant than I was comfortable with. And it was really hot there, and I was staying in a trailer. So I decided to use the shower over there, and my friend was going to watch him. So he knows her a little bit, but when I was in there taking a shower, I heard her scream, and he had gotten away from her. And so I went out and got him, and he ran to me, and it was fine, but he was clearly upset. So then this begins this thing of, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And that's how I was feeling. So I really almost pulled him that day. But then I had worked with him in the barn the night before. I walked him all around. He had some supplements. And he just was seeming a lot more relaxed and happy. With this dog, he never stops eating. So that's another reason why you don't want to rely on, the dog taking food or not taking food as that being a for sure indicator. So let's look a little deeper at what else had changed. Well, I realized that Reba, this little red girl that I had gotten who lives at my house, and she came from his same breeder and he loves her. And she had been at all of his dog shows prior to where he won that group one owner handler. So every show up to then, Reba had been with him. Okay, so this was the first time she wasn't. This was the second time she wasn't there, but you saw there were all those other stressors. The first time he leaned away was at when we showed in, I think, regular breed at where he won the owner handler group one, and he mildly looked away. He actually didn't lean away. He looked back at the judge. But that was, Reba wasn't there that first time. Also, at that same show where Reba wasn't there the first time, I had decided to bring a stroller. So I have my old Betty Spaghetti's, who passed away, her stroller because she had a bad back. So I thought, well, maybe this will be good for him and he can feel, a little bit more comfortable. So it seemed like he really liked it because it was very easy to wheel him next to me and be, in a chair and talking and visiting. But I did notice that people were more likely to like look in there at him, which, could, again, he doesn't like that. So if strangers are like trying to look in, that could be a potential stressor. The other things, we were staying on the grounds with other people, and there was a lot more exposure to other people. So when I look at all these things, and I start to sort of put it all together, I can see that there was a lot of things that had changed for him that probably contributed to this. So it was back to the drawing board. What am I going to do now? So what I decided to do, I just keep checking to see if there's any comments or anything I'm trying to see on here. Oopsie. Oopsie. So what I decided to do, I just keep checking to see if there's any comments or. Okay. All right. So I pulled him from competition. So after Wolfstock, and I do want to say, I also wrote to that judge because I felt so horrible and I wanted to make sure he knew how serious I took it. That my dog had turned around and potentially, would have snapped at him or even made him feel uncomfortable, that I had no intentions of entering him again until I felt really, really comfortable. And he was really grateful for that. And that was really important for me to want him to know that because I think it's serious. And I see people all the time, and I've seen it in my breed, where they just hold the mouth shut as tight as they can and the dog can't bite. But I'm never going to put a dog in that situation knowingly. I really thought he felt okay. And I thought that if he didn't feel okay, he would just lean away. So I pulled him from competition. And for the next 4 months, we went back to working on the desensitization and the counter conditioning, back to doing it on walks, back to much more intense on going out and pairing people and things in the environment with really good things, which his favorite thing is food. So it was always pairing that. I practiced at home and I had my husband go over him. So he's still getting to get back into the swing of things and practice doing it. But there was no concern for him because it was my husband. And I also did that at work with my friends at the grooming shop. We went back to our trusted confirmation class. Unfortunately, we only got back one time, but we were able to go back and do that. And then I also introduced a T-Touch wrap, which you can find those online, just how to make it. It's nothing but an ace bandage. I tried to do the full wrap. It was, he's a wiener dog and he's long shaped or short legs. So the half wrap worked better for him. And I do think that took a lot of edge off. And Kathy Lehman, who's in my mentor program, had actually contacted me and said, why don't you try this? And I do think that was helpful for him. So I also started taking him to a dock diving just for fun, just to expose him to something else. See, there's Reba. Anytime Reba's there, it's better for him. So I wanted to talk a little bit about other things that can affect your dog, inside versus outside. So some dogs, it's the floor. They don't like that slick floor. They can't walk on it. Sometimes it's a threshold. Going through the door can be a big thing for some animals. Sometimes it's the acoustics in a building, or it's the wind outside. So those are factors that when you're dealing with a sensitive dog, these are all things that may or may not matter. But the more sensitive the dog, the more likely these factors are going to affect the dog. So a male versus a female judge. Now, when I've only showed him twice since Wolfstock. The first time, I didn't know the judge, but the second time was a judge he had been under before. So it was a male judge, but I knew he had had no problem with this judge in the past. So I did consider that. So we want to think about whether it's a male versus a female judge. We want to think about warm weather versus cold weather. This is really a big thing because the first show that I took him back to, there was a hound match in the afternoon. And I'm a member of that club and I wanted to support them, and he seemed to be having a good time. So we stayed, but it went on for hours and it was getting really, really cold. And I could tell he was getting agitated with how cold he was feeling and the wind. Now he did it and he was okay. And he actually won the match, but that was not ideal for him. Being in season for bitches, this is a big one. So a lot of times, clients or people in the mentor program or students will say, oh my gosh, my girl has been so good, and now all of a sudden she's sitting down or she's being weird. And I always say, has she been in season yet? And a lot of times she hasn't been in season yet, but she should be coming anytime, or she's just getting ready to come into season. That will affect things. And I will not show sensitive bitches when they're in their heat cycle. It's just, it just adds another layer of them feeling uncomfortable. And some girls are very sensitive and weird about their rear ends, especially when they're in heat. So they don't want someone going back there. And sometimes you'll get the dog sitting over and over, and then people get frustrated, yank him back up, and the dog's just like, she's like, I can't do this. Another thing that can be helpful, and this did actually help Rook in the past, is having a trusted family member or dog present. Clearly, this is a big thing for Rook. He is better if Reba's there, period. End of report. If she's there with him, he's going to do better than if she's not there. And one time my husband came to a show and he actually seemed to quite like that too. So travel can affect dogs. Staying away from home, staying in that trailer, I think was not a good thing for him because he could hear people walking by and it was just not home. And think about us, like we don't always sleep well when we're traveling, and it's the same for the dogs. And this is one reason why, and I did do this with him, but I mean with all of my dogs, I want them to be trained very early on, staying away from home. Way before the first dog show. And even if you go spend the night at a friend's house or go to a trusted friend's and let the dog go have a sleep over there, all of those can be really beneficial for the dog, just getting used to that. Because staying in a hotel and people are walking by and they can hear noises and talking, that can be really challenging for them. And if they haven't slept all night and they've been reactive all night, and then you take them to a dog show the next day, they're going to be ready to spiral as soon as you get in there. Also, traveling human and canine companions. So that can be good or bad. If you're traveling with a friend and they have a dog that your dog doesn't jive with, or your dog's reactive and doesn't know them and is all wound up the whole time, that could, that's all trigger stacking. So all of these different things are layering on top of each other, and the dog's going to blow a lot quicker. All right. So 4 months later, I felt ready to enter him. I took Reba to that dog show. I even entered Reba in those dog shows. And there's Rook in the T-Touch wrap, just walking around, and he actually really liked the walking around and being with her part and being with me part. So at this point, when I was feeling ready to enter, we just needed a single point to finish. I entered him in 2 shows. I entered him in one in October and one in November. And I just want to say that I was also perfectly okay not finishing him. I mean, I know that I'm lucky that I have a breeder that knows I know what I'm doing and trusts me, but there was never any pressure. It's like, if he can't do this, he can't do this. And this is really hard. And I talk about this a lot because when I used to have just a regular behavior consulting business, the only people I needed buy-in from was the clients. I would go there, they love their dog, they own their dog, and they want me to help the dog be better. But with show dogs, it's like I have the owner and then potentially a breeder who may be a co-owner, and then also possibly a handler. So all these people are like, no, you just got to enter him. No, you just got to get him in there. Not all the time, but it's very common. And so this is like a deal breaker for me when I buy a dog. When I'm talking to someone about buying a dog, it has to be under the agreement that I will not be, no one will try and force me to enter my dog if he's not okay, or finish him if he can't do that. So this was up to Rook if he could do this. If he could not do it, he would not be finished. I did enter Reba as well. I focused on Rook during these shows and had someone else show Reba because she's extraordinarily easygoing and social. Like literally, I mean, you could give another dog to handle her and she would do it. Like, she's so good. So that was really good because I could be on him and not have to worry at all. He did wear his T-Touch wrap the whole time we walked around the grooms, and I did give him a calming supplement while at shows. You cannot medicate dogs at dog shows, to change their personality, but you can use supplements. All right. So back at that first show in October, one day, I just entered him one day. This was the first show back. He did well and he went reserve. Then at the Hound Club, he won best in match, but he was cold. It was cold, it was windy, and he was done. At the November show, my friend Karen, who's a handler and breeder, showed Reba for me, and she finished Reba's grand championship, and I finished Rook's championship. So he just needed a point to finish, and he got, I think, a couple points. So he's done. So we did it, and we did it really in a way that I feel good about. I feel was always honoring and supporting him, and there was as little pressure as possible. So I had someone actually ask me, "So what are you going to do? Are you going to place him?" And the answer is no. I'm obsessed with this dog. I love this dog. So we are playing around in nose work. He's not surprisingly really good at it, and he really seems to like it. I don't have any desire to compete in nose work. I just don't want to do any more dog sports that require weekends from me, and that kind of thing. And I don't even know if I'm going to put him on odor, but he really enjoys searching and doing the box work. So the other thing is I will do some more trick dog stuff with him. He has his novice trick dog title, and so we'll probably go further in that. I also want to do some parkour with him that I'm doing with one of my other dogs. That's not at AKC, it's with the Parkour Association. But there's a lot of things I could do. I really like sports that I can do just via video, because then I don't have to like worry about weekends. And if I'm not doing a dog show, I'm really trying to be, with my own dogs at home and my husband. So this is what we're doing now. This is where we're at. And I'm really, really happy with where I'm at with him. So our recommendations for help is I have a From Shy to Showy full package on showdogprepschool.com. Also, the From Shy to Showy book. This is the methods that I use. And this is the same methods that I used for years doing behavior consulting with, people whose dogs were afraid. I can't tell you how many people would call me and they just adopted a dog and it doesn't like the husband, or it's afraid when people come over. So I was doing all of this stuff for years and years and years at people's living rooms, teaching them how to help their dogs. So it's just those same methods that have basically been tweaked for our show dogs. We have a full online course. There's the webinar, of course, remote coaching sessions, and the mentor program. So let's just see. Okay, so I can't see comments, so maybe there aren't any comments. Well, I really appreciate you guys watching this and being here. If you have any questions, you can ask them underneath the video. This will be saved, and it will also be put on our YouTube channel. So thanks for watching. Be kind and sensitive and compassionate with these dogs. This is not fun for them. Dogs don't do this on purpose. There's no species in the world that on purpose pretends to be afraid. It's not good from an evolutionary standpoint. Being fearful is not good for our bodies. And so no one wants to feel this way. And if you've ever experienced anxiety or stress or fear that's very intense, you might be better able to, offer compassion and really want to I don't care about just getting a championship real quick. Hi, Bonnie. Oh, Rook's Breeder's on here. I don't care about just hurrying up and getting a championship. I care about my dog being okay, and him feeling safe and him knowing that I've got his back. And that's what I want for everybody's dogs who are having issues. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments, and I will do my best to get back to you. If you have a shy or fearful dog, check out From Shy to Showy on showdogprepschool.com. Thanks, everybody, for being here.